The cold holding cell smelled like rust and old sweat. Kai sat on a concrete bench, knuckles split, mouth still bleeding. He had hit the man once, one clean, honest punch. The sound of it still lived inside his right hand. Outside the bars, Yuna's assistant delivered a manila envelope. No note. Just a signed arrest warrant bearing Yuna's personal seal. Kai stared at her red signature stamp. 3 years of marriage reduced to ink on government paper. Nothing else remained. He hadn't cried when she kissed Director O at the company gala. He wouldn't start crying in a cage now. The gala memory surfaced anyway. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, her hand resting at the small of another man's back. Director O had smiled at him across the room, a smile that said, "I won. You never even knew the game." Kai had crossed the room in 12 steps. The 13th step ended Director O's smile against a marble column. Now he sat here. The marble column had not pressed charges. The man bleeding against it certainly had. Through her. At midnight, a guard opened the cell door. Not a release. A transfer. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere harder to find. The transport van smelled like diesel and fear. Kai sat handcuffed to a bolt in the floor, watching the city dissolve. Through the barred window, Yuna's corporate tower climbed above everything else. Its penthouse light burned like a cold, indifferent star. He hadn't always been nothing. 3 years ago, he had walked into that tower as Yuna's partner. Her equal, she said. She had signed documents making him a silent co-founder. The signatures were real. The equality had always been performance. The van stopped. A facility outside city limits. No signage, no number on the gate. Kai absorbed every detail carefully. Inside, a private cell. Cleaner than the city holding block. That was somehow worse. Somebody had arranged this specifically for him. A tray slid through the slot. He didn't touch the food. His mind was already elsewhere, already counting what he knew. What he knew, Yuna controlled the board. Director O controlled Yuna. Together they had built something he couldn't yet name but could feel. On the third morning, a different visitor arrived. Not a lawyer, not Yuna's staff, an old man in a quiet charcoal suit. The old man studied Kai the way people study things they have already decided to buy. Quiet. Clinical. Decided. "They told me you hit him once," the old man said. "Only once." He made it sound like a resume. Kai said nothing. The old man nodded as if silence were the correct answer. He sat down in the corridor chair. "My name is Chairman Bayek." The name landed. Even here, even now, that name had physical weight behind it. Beck Industries, 7 subsidiaries, 3 government infrastructure contracts. The family had survived 4 political regimes without choosing a single side visibly. "Director O owes me a debt he doesn't intend to repay," Beck said. "You are angry. I am patient. We are compatible." Kai finally spoke. "You want to use me?" Not a question, not an accusation, just the clean shape of the truth. Beck tilted his head. "I want to take you out of here as family. What you do with your freedom is yours." The word family sat strangely in the air. Kai hadn't used that word in a long time. Nobody had used it toward him. He looked up. "When?" he asked. Beck reached into his jacket and produced a single folded document. Release papers. Already signed. Kai reached through the bars and took the paper. Outside the facility's high window, dawn was already cutting the horizon open. The facility gates opened without ceremony. Morning air hit Kai's face like something he had briefly forgotten was free. A black car waited on the gravel road. No plates visible. The driver didn't look back. Bake sat in the rear. Kai got in. The door closed with the soft finality of something expensive. Neither man spoke for a long time. The city reappeared slowly. First highway overpasses, then billboards, then the familiar skyline pressing upward through morning haze. Yuna's tower caught the rising sun first. Its glass face burned orange for exactly 3 seconds. Kai counted all 3. "She'll move against your assets within 72 hours, Beck said quietly. She already has a legal team working through the weekend. Kai almost laughed. Assets. He had a savings account with 40,001 and a gym bag at a friend's apartment. She doesn't know about the co-founder clause, Beck said. The silent stake you signed 3 years ago. Neither does O. Yet. Kai turned slowly. The old man was watching him with the same quiet attention from the cell corridor. Patient. Already several moves ahead. How do you know about that clause? Kai asked. Beck smiled faintly. Because I wrote the template it was drafted from. The car pulled through iron gates into a compound Kai had only ever seen in business journals. The Bayek estate? Actual stone. Inside the main hall, staff moved like water around furniture. Nobody stared at Kai's gray t-shirt or split knuckles. Trained indifference. A woman descended the staircase, mid-20s. Same silver-streaked eyes as Bayek, but younger, sharper. She looked at Kai like a problem being assessed. My granddaughter Seo Yan, Beck said. She runs our legal division. She will be your shadow for the next 30 days. Accept it. Seo Yan extended her hand. Her grip was firm. She shook once and released, already turning back toward the staircase immediately after. Kai was given a room on the east wing, clean, spare, a window overlooking the garden, real furniture that had never been purchased cheaply. He stood at the window. The garden was symmetrical and silent. A crow landed on the stone wall and watched him back. 3 years ago, he had trusted a person completely. He would not be making architectural errors like that a second time. That afternoon, Seo Yan dropped a thick folder on the desk in front of him. Read all of it. Everything. Tonight. The folder contained everything. Director O's shell companies, Yuna's redirected revenue streams, a scheme 3 years deep and surgically patient. They had used his co-founder's signature as collateral. Every loan, every leveraged deal, every offshore account. His name was the anchor. Kai set the page down. He breathed through it. The anger arrived not as fire, but as a cold, architectural thing. He understood now. He hadn't been a husband. He had been a legal instrument, a tool with a pulse and a signature. Seo Yan appeared in the doorway at 9. She looked at the documents, reorganized by Kai's hand into a precise, logical sequence. You organized it by exposure risk, she said. Most people organize by date. She didn't say anything else. She left. Kai worked until 3 a.m. He built a map of the entire scheme on paper. Names, flows, pressure points, entry vectors. He found 3 places where the entire structure could collapse if pressed correctly. 3 points, 3 moments, 3 names to destroy cleanly. Outside, the estate garden was still. The stone wall where the crow had sat was empty now. The night held its breath. Kai folded the map and slid it under the mattress. Not because he didn't trust Bike, because he trusted no one. Not yet. He lay on the bed with his eyes open. Somewhere across the city, Yuna slept soundly. That would not last very long. Morning came gray and deliberate. Kai was already dressed when the estate woke up, sitting at the desk with the map unfolded. Staff delivered breakfast without knocking. A tray through the door. Hot rice, broth, pickled vegetables. Simple and exact. He ate everything. Beck found him in the library at 7. Kai had pulled 3 volumes on Korean corporate law and left them open, flagged. Beck looked at the flagged pages. He said nothing for a full minute. Then, you found the shareholder dissolution window. The window was narrow. 60 days after a co-founder's wrongful imprisonment, the silent stake could be activated as a full voting share. Kai had spent 3 years as a silent co-founder. He was now, technically and legally, the wrongfully imprisoned one. The clock was running. 58 days remaining, Kai said. Beck set his tea down on the table. The porcelain made no sound. Then, we have work. Seo Yan entered at 7:15 with a laptop and a steel thermos. She set both down without greeting. Work was the greeting. She pulled up O's shell company registrations. 14 entities across 4 jurisdictions. Kai studied them, the way you study something you intend to dismantle. This one, Kai said, pointing. Oh, Nam Il Consulting. Registered the same week Yuna and I got married. That is not a coincidence. Seo Yan scrolled back without a word. The registration date confirmed it. She looked at Kai then. Really looked. A recalibration happening. The marriage had been a business acquisition. Kai had been the asset. The wedding was the closing ceremony. He let that sit. By noon, they had mapped all 14 shell entities and traced the cash flows back to a single source account. One throat. Beck tapped the source account number. This account clears through a bank I have a seat on the board of. He smiled. Kai looked at the old man. You've been waiting for someone to hand you legal cause, he said. I'm the cause. Beck didn't deny it. He refilled his tea instead. Honest men don't deny clean observations. That earned him 1 point of trust. That afternoon, Kai was given new clothes. Dark, well-cut, minimal. He stood in the mirror and barely recognized the shape of himself. The man in the mirror looked like someone with resources, with standing, with weight. Kai decided to believe that man for now. Across the city, Director O received a notification. An account had been flagged for review by the bank's compliance board. His coffee went cold. He called Yuna immediately. She answered on the first ring. Whatever she said made his jaw tighten and his hand grip harder. Yuna stood at her penthouse window. The city below moved without her permission, which she had never entirely forgiven it for. It's a routine flag, she said, but her voice had the specific flatness of a person who does not believe their own words. Below her window, unseen, a black car moved through afternoon traffic. Kai in the back seat, watching her tower pass by again. He was going to the registrar's office to file a document that had no name yet in Korean law. It would after today. The registrar's office smelled like old paper and institutional patience. Kai approached the counter with Seo Yan 1 step behind him. He slid the document across the counter. The clerk read it twice, then looked up at Kai with something that might have been pity. Kai held the clerk's gaze steadily. Process it, he said. 1 word. The clerk stamped it without further comment. Stamp. Done. Outside, Seo Yan stopped walking. She looked at him differently than she had at the estate stairs. What did you just file? A wrongful imprisonment claim, Kai said, attached to the co-founder clause activation. Both documents filed simultaneously. You can't contest one without the other. Seo Yan was quiet for 3 full seconds. Then, Grandfather is going to want to hear about this before dinner. She was already calling. Dinner at the Bake Estate was a formal affair conducted in near silence. 3 people. 1 long table. Heavy silverware on white linen. Beck listened to Seo Yan's summary without interrupting. When she finished, he cut his beef with the precision of a man deciding things. Simultaneous filing, Beck said finally. I didn't suggest that. My lawyers didn't suggest that. Where did you learn that construction? Kai lifted his water glass. 3 years of being Yuna's errand man. She made me read every contract before she signed them. Habit. Seo Yan set her fork down. That detail had not been in any file she'd prepared. She was recalibrating again. Kai noticed her noticing. After dinner, Baek led Kai to a study lined with photographs, hands shaking hands, signatures, buildings being named, history rendered personal. 1 photograph stopped Kai. A younger Beck shaking hands with a man he recognized. Yuna's father. 20 years ago at minimum. You knew her father, Kai said. Not an accusation, a coordinate being placed. Beck stood beside him studying the same photograph. He was my partner for 11 years, Beck said. Oh, Nam-il had him removed from the company 6 years ago. Heart attack, officially. The word officially hung in the study air like smoke. Kai looked at the photograph again. Everything had just become significantly more complicated. Does Yuna know? Kai asked. Beck turned from the photograph. She knows exactly what O told her to know. That is the tragedy. Kai sat down in a leather chair. He looked at his hands. The split knuckles were healing now, the skin pulling tight and new. He had married into a crime scene. The evidence had been hidden inside his own signature all along. That was almost elegant in its cruelty. "What do you need from me specifically?" Kai asked. Beck poured 2 glasses of whiskey. He handed one across. "Your face? Your name? You are a wronged co-founder with a legal stake and a documented imprisonment," Beck continued. "You are the most legitimate weapon I have." Kai drank. The whiskey was old and had no ambition to impress him. He appreciated that. "When does O find out about the filing?" "He was served notice at 6 this evening," Seo-yeon said from the doorway. Neither man had heard her come back. She was holding a tablet. She walked to the desk and set the tablet down. On the screen, O's reaction captured by a lobby security camera. He had gone pale. Kai studied the frozen frame. There it was. The first crack in the smug expression he'd been carrying since the gala. Visible now. "He'll move fast now," Kai said. "He'll try to dissolve the co-founder clause before the 60-day window opens. That's his only play." Beck nodded slowly. "He'll need Yuna's signature to dissolve it, which means he'll go to her tonight, which means she'll learn things." Across the city, a black car stopped outside Yuna's tower. Director O stepped out and straightened his cuffs. He was rehearsing something. Yuna met him in the penthouse living room. She was still dressed. She had been waiting, which meant she already knew something was coming. O handed her a document. She read the first page and set it face down on the glass table. Her rings clicked on the surface. "He filed simultaneously," she said. Her voice was even. Her left hand was not. It had balled into a fist at her side. O moved toward her. "Sign the dissolution order tonight, before morning. It's the only way to—" She held up one hand. He stopped. "Get out," Yuna said, quietly, without heat. The kind of quiet that precedes a long and permanent decision being made in private. O left without the signature. The elevator doors closed on his face. For the first time, his expression had no performance left in it. Yuna stood alone at her window for a long time. The city burned below her as it always did. She picked up her phone. She called Kai's number. The line rang 7 times. He did not answer. He was sitting in Bayek's study, watching it ring, deciding. The phone stopped ringing. 7 missed calls from a number he hadn't deleted. Kai turned the phone face down and finished his whiskey. Beck watched without comment. Seo-yeon made a small notation on her tablet. Both of them had registered the choice. Good. Let them. She didn't sign, Kai said. That means she's thinking. Thinking means she's looking at O differently now. We use that window carefully. Seo-yeon looked up from her tablet. Use it how? She still controls the board. She can dissolve your clause without O's involvement. She can, Kai said, but she won't, because the moment she does, she legally confirms she knew about the wrongful imprisonment. Exposure. The room processed that quietly. Beck set his whiskey down. Outside the study window, the estate garden sat black and still under cloud. So we wait, Seo-yeon said slowly. We let her sit with the document and the silence and the missed calls until she moves first. We don't wait, Kai said. While she sits, we dismantle O. When the structure falls, she has nothing left to protect. She becomes irrelevant. Beck stood. He walked to the window and stood with his back to them both. When he spoke, his voice was careful and old. O has a shareholder meeting in 11 days, Beck said. He'll use it to consolidate before your clause activates. We need to be inside that room. Inside that room. As what, exactly? Kai turned the problem over once and set it down solved. As a shareholder. I already am one. Seo-yeon cross-referenced the clause. Her fingers moved fast, then stopped. He's right. The filing today technically activates observer rights immediately. Observer rights. The legal right to attend, to witness, to sit in the room while the enemy believes he controls every chair present. Beck turned from the window. His expression had changed. Something behind his eyes had been waiting for exactly this kind of thinking. They worked until 2 in the morning. The estate grew quiet around them. Staff extinguished lights in every room except the study window. Kai walked the estate corridor to his room alone. The stone floor was cold through his socks. He had forgotten to put shoes on. He stopped at a tall corridor window. The garden was still dark. His reflection stared back, sharper than the man from 3 days ago. 3 days ago, he'd had 40,000 won and split knuckles. Tonight, he had observer rights to a shareholder meeting and a billionaire's ear. In the morning, a package arrived for him. Tailored clothes, a briefcase, a Beck Industries business card with his name printed on it. He picked up the card. Kai Sion, strategic consultant, Beck Industries. He set it down once, then picked it up again and kept it. Meanwhile, Nam-il had not slept. His desk was covered in legal briefs. 3 different lawyers had told him 3 different versions of bad news. The simultaneous filing was the problem. Contest one document and you validate the other. It was a legal trap with no clean exit. Stood at his own tower window, different floor, same city. He looked down and realized for the first time he was being hunted. He had underestimated the man he'd had jailed. That mistake was already written. The only question now was how large it would become. Back at the estate, Kai stood at his window eating breakfast. The crow was back on the stone wall. He nodded at it once. The crow did not nod back. Kai finished his breakfast. 11 days until the shareholder meeting. 51 days until the clause activated fully. He had time. Not comfort, not certainty, but time, which in the right hands was the only resource that actually mattered at all. Seo Yan knocked at 7:30 sharp. She entered before he answered, which meant she had decided to stop treating him like a guest. She set a schedule on his desk. Each of the 11 days mapped out. Legal prep, financial forensics, rehearsal for the boardroom appearance. Kai looked at day 11. One word written in Seo Yan's clean, precise hand. Boardroom. He looked up at her. She was already leaving. Day 1 of 11. Seo Yan ran the first session in the library. Corporate Law Fundamentals. Not because Kai didn't know them. Because she needed to see exactly what he knew. She presented a hypothetical. A hostile observer entering a shareholder meeting. 3 ways the chair could legally remove them. What were the counters? Kai answered all 3 without looking at the document, then added a 4th counter she hadn't written down. She wrote it down now. By noon, they had covered shareholder rights across 6 jurisdictions. Kai absorbed it like architecture. Structure first, details filling in naturally behind. Lunch arrived. They ate without stopping. Seo Yan had questions between bites. Kai answered between bites. The rhythm of it was oddly functional. "Why did you marry her?" Seo Yan asked. Not softly. The way you ask questions when you need the accurate answer, not the comfortable one. Kai set his chopsticks down. A beat passed. "Because she was brilliant," he said. "And I was 26 and didn't know brilliant could be weaponized." Seo Yan said nothing for a moment, then picked up her chopsticks and resumed eating. She didn't offer sympathy. He hadn't wanted any. Day 3. Beck took Kai to the financial district. Not announced. A quiet walk past 3 buildings that Nam-il's shell companies owned secretly. Beck stopped outside a glass-fronted building and looked up at it, the way you look at something you intend to take apart professionally. "And this building processes 40% of O's offshore transfers," Beck said. "The compliance officer on the 4th floor is named Park Dae-jung. He owes me." Kai looked at the building and understood. Beck hadn't been waiting for a legal cause. He had been quietly surrounding O for years already. "You needed someone O couldn't dismiss as your instrument," Kai said. "Someone with independent standing and genuine grievance. That's why you chose me." Beck met his gaze squarely. "Yes," he said. One word, no decoration. The most honest thing anyone had said to Kai in 3 years. Kai looked back at the building. "All right," he said. But I choose what happens after the meeting. My terms. My exit. Agreed? Bake extended his hand on the pavement outside a building that held 40% of his enemy's secrets. Kai shook it. Once. Day 5. A message arrived from Yuna. Not a call this time. A text. 4 words. We need to talk. Kai read it twice. Set the phone down. Picked up the schedule instead. Day 5 read, Financial Forensics. Trace the Yuna-O transaction bridge. He brought the message to Seo-Yan. She read it without expression. Do you want to meet her? The question was operational, not emotional. Not yet, Kai said. But reply. Tell her day 8, neutral ground. A coffee shop she's never been to. I'll send the address. Seo-Yan typed the reply. Hit send. Then looked up. You're going to let her think she initiated this. Not a question. Almost impressed. Day 6. The financial forensics session revealed the transaction bridge. Every major transfer had a 48-hour delay routed through one intermediary account. That intermediary account was registered under a name Kai recognized immediately. His own name. His signature. Used without his knowledge for 3 years. 3 years of transactions. Hundreds of millions of won. His name had been the bridge between O's fraud and clean corporate accounts. Unknowingly. Seo-Yan watched him. He didn't explode. He folded the transaction record once, precisely, and placed it in the briefcase. Documented. Preserved. Filed. That document makes you a victim of financial fraud, Seo-Yan said quietly. In addition to wrongful imprisonment, the exposure for O just doubled. Kai closed the briefcase. He looked at Seo-Yan. No, he said. It tripled because Yuna countersigned every transaction approval. Her name is on all of them. The room went very quiet. Outside the window, an autumn wind moved through the estate garden. The hedgerows bent once and straightened again. Day 8 arrived gray and cold. Kai dressed without the briefcase. Just the dark jacket. A single document folded in the inner pocket. Seo-Yan met him in the estate hallway. She looked at his jacket, at the pocket. She said nothing. She handed him a coffee instead. The coffee shop was in a neighborhood Yuna's car would look wrong in. Small, warm. Wooden tables worn smooth by ordinary people's elbows. Kai arrived 12 minutes early. He chose the table in the corner with his back to the wall and a clear view of the door. Yuna arrived exactly on time. She had dressed down deliberately. Camel coat. No jewelry. She still looked like someone who owned things. She saw him immediately. He didn't stand. She crossed the room and sat down across from him without greeting. They had skipped past that. For a long moment, neither spoke. The coffee shop moved around them, cups clinking. Quiet conversation. A barista calling an order. Ordinary life ignoring them. You didn't answer my calls, Yuna said. Her voice was level, controlled. But her hands on the table were pressed flat and hard. No, Kai said. Nothing else. He let it sit in the air between them like a stone on a table. Unapologetic. Factual. Yuna looked down at the table. A fracture appeared. Small, quick, gone. But Kai had been watching for it, and he caught every millisecond. I didn't sign the dissolution order, she said. I want you to know that. Kai nodded once. I know. I was informed immediately. The word immediately landed. She had expected to be ahead of him. She wasn't. Had never been, he suspected. She was recalculating now visibly. What do you want, Kai? She asked. The question was real, not tactical. Under all the architecture of her control, something genuine was asking. Kai set his coffee down carefully. He looked at her the way you look at a complicated thing you have already decided how to handle. I want you to understand something first, he said, before I tell you what I want. Because what you understand changes what you decide. He reached into his inner pocket and placed the folded document on the table between them. He did not unfold it, just placed it there. Yuna looked at it. She didn't reach for it. Smart. She knew that picking it up meant accepting whatever it contained as real. Your name, Kai said quietly, appears as counter-signatory on 437 transaction approvals over 36 months, all routed through my account. The coffee shop sounds continued around them. A child laughed somewhere near the window. Yuna's face had gone very still and pale. I signed what O put in front of me, she said. Her voice had changed. Smaller. More honest than anything she had said in years. Kai said nothing. He let her sentence exist without filling the space after it. Silence as a tool. A room she had to furnish herself. He told me you were moving money out, she said, that you were building a parallel operation, that the arrest was protecting the company. There it was, the exact mechanism. O had pointed her at Kai. She had believed it because she wanted the marriage to make sense. Did you verify it? Kai asked. She didn't answer immediately. That was the answer. She closed her eyes for exactly 3 seconds. When she opened them, she was looking directly at him. Whatever she found in his face, it wasn't what she had been expecting to find. What do you want? She asked again. Softer this time. The CEO had left the table. The person was asking now, different question entirely. Kai picked up the document, held it a moment, then pushed it across to her. Read it tonight, he said. All of it. Alone. And then? She asked. He stood, put on his jacket. And then you'll know exactly what O used both of us to build. Good night, Yuna. He walked out. He didn't look back. The glass door swung closed behind him, and the cold, gray street received him without ceremony. Inside, Yuna sat alone with the document. Around her, cups clinked, and a barista laughed. She picked up the folded paper with both hands. Outside, the black car was waiting. Seo Yan was in the back seat. She looked at Kai's face as he got in. Well? Kai settled into the seat. The car moved. She didn't know about the transactions, he said. She was managed, not the architect, the material. That night the estate was quiet. Kai sat at his desk with the schedule. 3 days remaining. He crossed off day 8 with one line. Across the city, Yuna was reading. He knew this without seeing it. The document was designed to take exactly 4 hours to fully absorb. Seo Yan knocked at 10. She carried 2 cups of tea and her tablet. The tea was an acknowledgement that tonight was not a session. Kai took the tea. They sat. He at the desk, she in the chair by the window. The garden outside was dark and still. My grandfather likes you, Seo Yan said eventually. He doesn't like people often. He respects them or he uses them. Liking is rare for him. Kai held his tea and considered that. Which category am I? He asked. Seo Yan turned from the window. Ask him after the boardroom, she said. She left at 10:30. He worked until midnight. Day 9 arrived without announcement, gray and purposeful, rain beginning against the east wing window. At 7, a message arrived. Not from Yuna. From an unknown number. 3 words. I read it. The timestamp said 2:43 in the morning. 2:43? She had read through the night. All of it. Every page. Kai set the phone down and looked at the rain on the window. He didn't reply. He put the phone in a drawer and went to breakfast. She had found her own way through the document. That was enough. Day 9 session was boardroom simulation. Seo Yan played the chair. Beck played O's lead lawyer. Kai played himself, entering a hostile room. The simulation ran 3 hours. Beck's lawyer character interrupted 14 times. Kai was ruled out of order twice. He adapted both times without breaking composure. After the 3rd run, Beck dropped the lawyer character entirely. He looked at Kai across the table and nodded once. Slowly. That was the review. That evening, O made his move, a counter-filing, challenging the observer rights on a procedural technicality. Seo Yan had the response prepared already. The response had been filed before O's challenge arrived. time-stamped 6 hours earlier. Seo Yan had anticipated the exact technicality he would attempt. Kai looked at the timestamps, then at Seo Yan. "You filed the counter before he filed the challenge." She shrugged minimally. "He's predictable. I'm not." Day 10. Rain continued. Kai dressed formally for the first time. Full suit, dark charcoal. Beck's tailor had left no margin for doubt. He barely recognized the man in the mirror. That was the point. The man in the cell 11 days ago would not be recognizable tomorrow. Beck met him in the main hall. He looked at Kai without speaking for a moment. Then, "My son would have been about your age now." Kai held Beck's gaze. He didn't fill the silence with comfort. He stood in it with the old man and let it be what it was. Beck placed a hand on Kai's shoulder once, briefly, removed it, straightened his own jacket. "Tomorrow," he said. "Back to the work." Good. That afternoon, a second message arrived from Yuna's unknown number. Longer this time. Kai read it standing in the corridor. Then, read it again. The message said, "He told me your father left, that you had no one, that I was doing you a kindness by marrying someone like you." Kai stared at the screen for a long time. The rain against the corridor window was the only sound. He exhaled slowly and deliberately. O had poisoned everything: the marriage, the work, the simple fact of Kai's existence in Yuna's orbit. Systematic, patient, thorough, a craftsman of ruin. He typed one reply. 4 words. "Tomorrow it ends." He sent it before he could reconsider the weight of the promise he had just made. He put the phone away and stood at the rain-washed window for 3 minutes. Then he went back to the study to prepare. The study that night held all 3 of them until past midnight. Documents reviewed. Sequence confirmed. Every contingency mapped and assigned a response. At midnight, Bake called it finished. He closed his folder, stood. "Sleep," he said to Kai. "You need to be exact tomorrow, not tired. Exact." Kai walked to his room. He didn't review the documents again. He knew them. He lay down in the dark and closed his eyes. Tomorrow. Morning arrived without rain. The sky was the specific pale gray of a day that has decided to be witnessed. Kai was already awake. He stood at the window and watched the garden lighten slowly. The stone wall was empty. No crow today. He noted the absence without meaning. He showered and dressed with the precision of a man who understood that appearance in a boardroom is its own form of argument. Dark charcoal. Exact. Breakfast was delivered at 6:30. He ate standing at the window. Rice and broth again. Familiar now. The estate had its rhythms, and he had learned them. Seo Yan met him in the main hall at 7 sharp. She was dressed in a severe black suit, hair pinned. No silver streaks visible. Different version of herself. Beck descended the stairs behind her. He had added a pocket square, white, precise. He looked at both of them and said nothing at all. The black car moved through morning traffic. The city was just beginning its day. Delivery trucks, coffee carts, people who didn't know what was coming. They didn't speak in the car. There was nothing left to say that hadn't been said. The silence was preparation, not absence. It had texture. O's corporate tower appeared ahead. 42 floors of glass and steel built partly on Kai's unknowing signature. That detail was clarifying. The car stopped. Kai picked up the briefcase. He looked at Bayek once. Bayek looked back. The understanding between them required no words at all. Kai and Seoyan got out. Beck stayed in the car. His presence would come later, through different channels, in a different form entirely. The lobby was marble and cold light. A receptionist looked up. Kai placed his observer notice on the desk without being asked. She called upstairs. The call upstairs lasted 40 seconds. When the receptionist looked back at Kai, her expression had changed. Whoever answered the phone had not been pleased. 29th floor, she said. Kai nodded. He walked to the elevator. The lobby reflected him in its marble floor all the way across. In the elevator, Seo-yan checked her phone once. "Oh arrived 40 minutes ago," she said. "He brought 3 lawyers. Expected. We have the filings." 3 lawyers, Kai said. Not worried. Categorizing. 3 lawyers meant Oh was scared, but not yet broken. The boardroom would handle the difference. The elevator opened on 29. A long corridor. Dark carpet. Corporate art on both walls. The expensive kind that says nothing and costs everything. 2 of O's staff stood outside the boardroom doors. They saw Kai and Seo-yan and made the mistake of stepping forward to block them. Seo-yan had a document in their hands before they finished stepping. Filed observer rights. Stamped. Court verified. Beck's personal legal seal in the corner. The staff stepped aside. Seo-yan took the document back. Kai walked to the boardroom doors. He placed one hand on the handle. Pushed. The boardroom went silent the moment he walked in. 15 people around a long glass table. O at the head. And O's face, cracking open. Kai walked to the observer's chair against the wall. He sat. He placed the briefcase on his knees. He looked at O across the room. Waited. O recovered quickly. He was good at recovery. He called the meeting to order with a voice that almost didn't shake. Almost. The first agenda item was routine financials. O was using it to establish control before getting to the co-founder clause dissolution vote. Standard misdirection. Kai let him run the financials. He sat with the briefcase on his knees and watched O perform competence for 24 minutes. Noted everything. Then O moved to item 2, co-founder clause dissolution. He framed it as administrative housekeeping, routine, necessary. 3 lawyers ready at their seats. Kai opened the briefcase. The sound of the clasps was small in the boardroom. But in the silence O had built, it was very loud. Every head in the room turned. O's 3 lawyers leaned forward slightly. O himself went very still. The room had just changed shape entirely. Kai stood. He addressed the room. Not O, the shareholders. Before this vote proceeds, I am required by the filed observer rights to present material evidence. O's lead lawyer stood immediately. This observer has no floor rights. Seo-yan's voice came from the doorway before he finished the sentence. Seo-yan walked to the table and placed a bound document in front of each shareholder. 15 copies. Prepared the night before. Precise and inevitable. O's lead lawyer tried again. These documents are not on the agenda. Kai spoke over him without raising his voice. Quiet authority. Exactly like Beck. Under Article 47C of the Korean Commercial Act, a documented co-founder may present evidence of financial misconduct prior to any dissolution vote. Page 1. Shareholders opened their copies. The sound of 15 pages turning simultaneously was the most satisfying sound Kai had heard in a very long time. O moved first. He stepped away from the head of the table, toward Kai. His 3 lawyers half rose. Kai didn't move a single centimeter. "This is harassment," O said, low, almost private, meant only for Kai. The smile from the gala was entirely gone. Only the man remained. Kai looked at him the way you look at weather. Acknowledged, categorized, not particularly threatening. Page 7, Kai said. To the room, not to O. Page 7. The transaction records, 437 entries. Each one dated, each one routed, each one bearing 2 signatures, his and Yuna's. The room changed temperature. 3 shareholders exchanged glances. One reached for her phone. O's lawyers were conferring in rapid, urgent whispers behind raised hands. O pointed at Kai. These records are fabricated. This man was jailed for assault. His testimony has no standing in this room legally. Kai opened his mouth to respond. He didn't need to. The boardroom doors opened behind him. Everyone looked. Beck walked in alone and unhurried. The room knew him immediately. 3 shareholders stood reflexively. The lead lawyer sat down without being asked. O's face did something complicated and private. Beck walked to the head of the table. Not O's end, the opposite end. He placed both hands flat on the glass and addressed the room. I hold a 9% stake in this company, Beck said. Acquired quietly over 4 years. I would like it noted in the minutes. Now. The meeting secretary's pen moved immediately. O watched it move. Every scratch of that pen was a nail. He had stopped pointing at Kai entirely. Kai spoke into the silence Beek had created. Combined with my co-founder stake, currently at observer level, that represents a blocking position on any dissolution vote. A blocking position. 2 words that ended the dissolution vote before it started. 3 shareholders were already reading their documents with new attention and urgency. O's lead lawyer leaned to his ear. Whatever he said made O close his eyes for exactly 2 seconds, then open them. Empty of strategy now. Kai set the final document on the table. Not the transaction records. Something else. Something Seo Yan had prepared on day 6, and he had carried since. He turned it over. A formal fraud referral to the Financial Services Commission, pre-signed by Beck, dated this morning, already transmitted, already received, already transmitted, already received. The 3 words passed around the room in silence, shareholder to shareholder, face to face. The meeting was effectively over. O walked out. Not with the stride of a man choosing to leave. With the gait of a man whose legs are taking him somewhere his mind hasn't accepted yet. Kai watched him go. He didn't feel what he expected to feel. Not satisfaction, not relief. Something quieter. The specific silence after a long noise stops. Beck walked the length of the table toward Kai. The remaining shareholders watched. He stopped beside him and spoke quietly. For Kai alone. My partner's daughter is in that penthouse, Beck said quietly. What happens to her is yours to decide. I won't direct it. I promised. Kai looked at the empty head of the table where O had stood, then at the fraud referral document still face up on the glass, then at Bayek. I'll deal with Yuna separately, Kai said. My terms, my timeline. Beck nodded once. Seo Yan made no notation. This part was off the record. The remaining shareholders began to file out. Several paused to acknowledge Bayek on the way. None acknowledged Kai. That was fine. They would know his name soon enough. The boardroom emptied. 3 people remained. The glass table reflected the cold ceiling lights back at nothing. Seo Yan closed her document folder. Done. Kai picked up the fraud referral from the table. He folded it once and put it in his jacket pocket. A souvenir of nothing. Evidence of everything. The elevator descended 29 floors in silence. Kai watched the numbers drop. Each one a floor he would never need to stand on again. In the lobby, O was visible through the glass exterior doors. He was on the phone. His free hand was pressing against the marble wall for support. Kai walked past the glass doors without stopping. He didn't look at O. Looking would have given the moment more than it deserved from him. Outside, the morning had warmed slightly. A thin winter sun had found a gap in the clouds. Kai stood on the pavement and breathed the air. Seo Yan stood beside him. She looked at the sky too briefly. Then, the FSC will open a formal investigation within 72 hours. O has no exit. Beck's car appeared at the curb. The old man was already inside. He looked out through the window at Kai and gave a single measured nod. Kai shook his head slightly, not dismissively. He needed to walk. The car understood and moved on. Seo Yan looked at him. Where? I need an hour, he said. Alone. Seo Yan held his gaze for a moment, then nodded and hailed a separate cab without another word. Good. He walked. No direction. The financial district gave way to older streets, narrower, where the buildings were shorter and had no corporate ambitions at all. He found a bench in a small park between 2 old buildings. He sat, placed the briefcase beside him, looked at nothing in particular for a while. The anger he had carried for 11 days was still there, but it had changed shape. compressed, cooler, something he could put down and pick up deliberately. He thought about Yuna's father, the photograph in Bayek's study, a man removed officially. The word officially doing enormous quiet work in that sentence. O had taken everything from everyone in his orbit. Beck's partner, Kai's 3 years, Yuna's ability to see clearly, a patient and comprehensive theft of lives. He sat for 40 minutes, then stood, picked up the briefcase. The hour wasn't finished, but the thinking was. That was the point of the walk. He took a cab to Yuna's tower, not because she had asked, because he had promised 4 words to an unknown number at 2:43 in the morning. The lobby of Yuna's tower was different from O's. Warmer materials, better proportions. Someone had cared about this building when it was designed. Her father, probably. The receptionist recognized him. That was interesting. Yuna had told them he was coming. She had been expecting him before he decided to come. She had known he would come after the meeting. She had prepared for him. That meant she had been thinking about him. He filed the detail carefully. The penthouse elevator opened directly into her living space. She was standing at the window, the city behind her. The same position as before, different woman. No blazer, hair down. The CEO costume removed. She had decided something about how this conversation would be conducted before he arrived. He noted it. "It's done?" she asked. He set the briefcase down by the elevator. "The FSC referral was transmitted this morning. O has no clean exit." She turned back to the window. Below, the city moved without them, as it always had. "He told me my father died of a weak heart," she said. Kai stood in the center of the room. He didn't move toward her. "Chairman Bayek's legal team has the financial records from the year your father died." Her shoulders moved. Once. A single breath taken and released in a way that was about more than air. She pressed one hand to the glass. They stood in the penthouse silence for a long time. The city below continued its indifferent work. 2 people in a room full of things that couldn't be undone. "I'm not asking you to apologize," Kai said finally. "I'm not asking for anything. I came because I promised. It's done. That's all." Yuna turned from the window. Her eyes were dry. Something in them was not. "The company," she said. "What happens to it now? To my father's work?" Kai reached into his jacket. Not the fraud referral. A different document. One he had prepared alone at the desk on day 10 before anyone else woke up. He crossed the room and held it out to her. She took it with both hands. He stepped back. She unfolded it slowly, read the first line, stopped. A co-founder stake transfer, his silent shares, signed over to her, irrevocably, in full. The date on it was this morning, before the boardroom, before everything. Yuna looked up from the document. He was already at the elevator. She opened her mouth. He pressed the button. The doors began closing. Kai. One word. His name in her mouth sounding like something she was figuring out how to hold correctly for the very first time. He looked at her through the narrowing gap. He didn't say anything. He let her have the last word. That was the only gift left to give. The doors closed. The elevator descended. He stood in it alone and looked at his reflection in the polished steel. He barely recognized himself. Good. The lobby received him without ceremony. He walked through it and out the glass doors into the winter afternoon. No briefcase. He had left it upstairs. He hadn't left it by accident. The briefcase contained every document they had built together over 11 days. She would need them. She would know what to do. The street was cold and ordinary. He walked without destination for 3 blocks, then stopped at a corner and looked at the city one final time. Yuna's tower, O's tower, the financial district running between them like a scar. He had walked into all of it and walked back out, carrying nothing. His phone rang. Beck. He answered. "It's done," Kai said before the old man could speak. A pause. Then, Where will you go? Kai looked at the street ahead. Ordinary. Unheroic. Pointed nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. I don't know yet, he said. That's the first honest answer I've had. Beck was quiet for a moment. The East Wing room is yours. No conditions, no timeline. Kai almost smiled. Ask Seo Yan if she approves that offer. Beck laughed. Quietly, once. The sound of an old man genuinely surprised by something good. Kai ended the call and put the phone in his pocket. 3 days later, the FSC announced a formal investigation into Onam-il and 14 associated shell entities. The news ran on every financial channel simultaneously. O was photographed leaving his tower with a lawyer on each arm. He was wearing sunglasses. The smug expression was gone permanently. So was the gold watch. Kai saw the photograph on his phone at the estate. He looked at it for 5 seconds, then closed the app and went back to his tea. Seo Yan found him there an hour later. She sat across from him without preamble, poured her own tea from his pot. He didn't object. Yuna filed the co-founder documents with the company registrar this morning, Seo Yan said. She used the briefcase, all 11 days of work, correctly. Kai nodded once. Good. The company would survive. Her father's work would survive. What happened to Yuna after that was entirely and only hers to navigate. She asked about you, Seo Yan said. Not tactically, just information, offered carefully. The way you hand someone something breakable across a table. Kai looked at the garden through the library window. The crow was back on the stone wall. He hadn't noticed when it returned. It had simply reappeared. What did you tell her? He asked. Seo Yan looked into her cup. That you were here, that you were well, that some things take their own time. Some things take their own time. He held that sentence for a moment, set it down gently, picked up his tea, drank. The crow stayed on the wall. That evening, Baek found him in the study again. Not working this time, just sitting in the leather chair with a book he wasn't reading. Beck sat across from him. He poured 2 whiskeys without asking. The same bottle as the first night. The ritual of it was becoming something. My lawyers confirmed the clause activation timeline, Beck said. In 40 days, your blocking stake becomes a full board seat. If you want it, if you want it. Kai turned the glass in his hands. A board seat, a name on a door. Power with an address. He looked at the bookshelf. What did your son want? Kai asked. The question came quietly and without calculation. Beck was still for a moment. Then, to build something that outlasted him. Kai looked at the old man across the amber light. Then I'll take the seat, he said. But I build it my way. From the beginning. Clean. Beck raised his glass. Kai raised his. They drank. Outside the study window, the estate garden was dark and still, and the stone wall was empty, and the night held everything quietly. 40 days later, a name appeared on a board seat roster. Kai Sion. No title yet. No history anyone could easily find. Just a name. Present. Beginning.